Hello? Can you see me? I'm here. Behind you, look! Don't you run away! Please stay.
Hi guys, it's Izzy, and here on my channel I like to cover conspiracy theories, #conspiracy, and other unsolved mysteries. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see any more. In this video I'll be going over the paintings of two artists who have inflicted misery on those in their presence. And I'll also be debunking the mystery behind LOAB, the mysterious demon who was summoned through AI art. I do also have an important question to ask you guys, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video for that. But in the meantime, let's dive into the video. Have you ever heard of Pogo the Clown? Well, any fans of American Horror Story out there might recognize him because Twisty the Clown is very loosely based off him. He is the alter ego of the infamous John Wayne Gacy. His crimes are not to be forgotten. He very brutally tortured, murdered and sexually assaulted 33 young men. He was given the nickname of the Killer Clown because he used to go to charity events dressed as this clown. When his crimes came to light, he was sentenced to the lethal injection, but he actually survived 14 years on death row. Gacy died as a diagnosed sociopath who showed absolutely no remorse for any of his victims, with his final words being, "Kiss my ass." Whilst in prison though, he did pick up a new hobby. He decided he wanted to paint to bring joy into people's lives. He took his inspiration from the likes of Walt Disney and even Jesus Christ himself, which when you look at this painting, you would be fooled into thinking some innocent schoolchild somewhere had painted this. And in my opinion, when you know the things that you know about Gacy, to me, it seems like he's even taking the piss. I also don't know how he can say he wants to bring joy into people's lives, and then he also paints things like these creepy schools and even a portrait of Hitler. Now, there is this phenomenon called murderabilia, which is basically where true crime fans, they want to pick up these memoirs of famous serial killers, other monsters, and collect these artifacts basically. So his paintings, they've been sold anywhere up to $20,000 a piece. His most sought after piece is Pogo the Clown, with owners of this piece saying that it's turned their lives into a living circus. Musician Nicky Stone bought this painting for a whopping $3,000, and soon after his dog died and his mum was diagnosed with cancer. For some time this painting was also stored at his friend's house, but then this friend's neighbour mysteriously died in a car crash. It was also kept in another friend's house for some time when this friend tragically tried to take his own life. Before Nicky Stone even had the chance to display this piece of artwork and hang it up, he decided he wanted to get rid of it. It was then sold to art collector Sean McCarran, and he was very adamant he didn't believe in the whole hocus pocus surrounding this painting. But needless to say, he got his own share of bad luck as soon as he purchased this painting, with his mother being tragically murdered at the age of 58. He now has this painting hidden away, but he still gets it out for those that want to see it. But he says every time he does, people instantly get the chills and ask him to put it far away. The legacy, if you can call it that, of Pogo the Clown still lives on, with it being a highly sought after piece in true crime. According to wickedlocal.com, even big names like actor Johnny Depp have tried to invest in this piece. But he supposedly became so weirded out by it, he developed a pathological fear of clowns and did his best to unload this painting as soon as possible. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's possible for bad karma to attach itself onto certain paintings? If you think the last one could just be explained by a series of unfortunate events, then I want to introduce you to the tragedies of a man called Arshile Gorky. This poor man had a lifetime of misfortune, and it's said to have made a permanent impact on his artwork. He was born in 1904 under this name, which I can't pronounce, I'll put on the screen, and he spent his entire childhood trying to escape the Armenian genocide. His father emigrated to America to try and avoid being drafted, and this left the rest of the family just to fend for themselves. His family was forced to embark in a 150-mile death march. Strung Struggling to survive, the family truly was on the brink of starvation, and when Gorky was just 14 years old, his own mother died in his arms. In 1920, Gorky himself moved to America, which meant that he was reunited with his father, but the two of them never really grew close. This led him to have a lifelong feeling of just abandonment. Gorky did try and turn his life around. He started taking painting lessons. But he was advised that an Armenian painter will never make it in America, but Russians, they're cool and chic. So this led him to reinvent himself as a Russian painter, and he gave himself the name Gorky, which in Russian translates to the bitter one, which would end up being a name all too fitting. It seemed that every single time Gorky tried to put a positive spin on his life, he was immediately struck down again. Gorky ended up getting married, and his wife owned a convertible farm which stored many of his paintings, and this suddenly just burnt down. 1 month after the tragic fire, he was sadly diagnosed with colon cancer. Now, this was treated with an operation, but the operation left him permanently disabled. It was then discovered as well that Gorky's wife was cheating on him with his best friend, and after this discovery, Gorky's wife just packed her bags and left with his 2 kids. In the very same week of the breakup, Gorky's friend was driving him back home, but he was driving a little intoxicated. And you already know where this is going. A pair of them unfortunately ended up in a car crash, and Gorky was left with some serious injuries. And in order to keep his head up, he had to be put into a very uncomfortable leather neck brace. It literally seemed that everything in his life that could go wrong went wrong. Even like the little things, like his art dealer, for example, didn't send out the mailers for his art show opening, meaning no one showed up to his art show, which makes me so sad after everything. This all eventually became too much for Gorky, and in 1948 he returned to his home in Connecticut and hung himself. But his misfortune seemingly lived on and attached itself to his paintings. After his death, 15 of his paintings were supposed to fly from John F. Kennedy Airport to LA for an exhibition, and just 2 minutes after this plane set off, the whole thing crashed. The crash was devastating, killing all 87 passengers, 8 crew members, and destroying all of his paintings upon impact. This plane also had some very high-profile people on it, including a friend of the president, an Olympic gold medalist, and even the mother of Linda McCartney, who eventually went on to marry Paul McCartney, and also, in my opinion, has the best vegetarian sausages out there. It's said that even to this day, his paintings are still meant to be haunted, spontaneously sometimes setting on fire or falling off the walls, and people have even said to have seen his ghost in his old Connecticut home. Now, I really want to share my 2 cents on LOAB, the supposed demon who is haunting AI-driven art. So using text, you can prompt anything into this software, for example, dog, and the computer will then generate his best interpretation to what it thinks a dog looks like. You can also play around with these prompts and make it more specific, for example, dog in a hat. And you can even play around with different styles of art as well. So there is a lot of flexibility there, and you can be really, really creative with it. Now, I want to dissect a certain Twitter thread from the user Supercomposite, who basically claims that a demon is living inside AI technology, and once she's summoned, you can't get rid of her. I'll leave the full thread in the description below, but essentially the user was playing around with a thing called a negative prompt. This is where instead of asking the computer to draw a certain thing, you're asking it to not draw a certain thing by using the minus sign before your prompt. Out of curiosity, Supercomposite decided to see what the computer would generate if they put in the negative prompt, Brando -1, referring to the actor Marlon Brando. The computer then generated this weird thing which people think looks like some sort of logo, and on it says the words Digita Pintix. The user then thought, well, if I insert this word that the computer's generated as a negative prompt again, then maybe it will bring me up with images related to Marlon Brando. But instead, what this brought up was the stuff of nightmares. They found a rosy-cheeked, soulless-looking woman staring dead at the screen in every single picture, with the writing LOAB on the corner of one image, which is how she got her name. Supercomposite then started to play around crossbreeding images with the picture of LOAB and her apparent features would always be at the forefront of every single picture, and these pictures ended up being increasingly more scary and more sadistic with each go. They then tried to play around and sort of trick this AI technology, and they started to insert prompts that they knew would be the opposite of LOAB, and she seemingly seemed to disappear into the abyss for a bit, only then to reappear further down the line when she wasn't prompted at all. Hence, this idea was born that once she's been summoned, she will continue to haunt the artwork forever. Now, I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but there is a very logical explanation behind what's going on here, but it is fascinating nonetheless. I've seen the YouTuber Frank the Tank do a very detailed explanation to this, which I'll leave in the description below as well. But essentially, there is a huge misconception behind the idea of negative prompts and how they work. A lot of people think that when you use a negative prompt, the computer will bring up the opposite of that. But this isn't strictly true. Instead, it will bring up anything but what you've asked for. For example, if you typed in as a negative prompt, close window, it wouldn't really bring you up an open window. It would bring you up anything but a closed window. So obviously this is quite open to interpretation when you think about all the things in the world that aren't a closed window. Like going back to the original example of Brando, there is only concepts that Brando is associated with. So using the negative prompt, it would generate literally anything in the world that is not associated with Brando. AI is very good at establishing things that already exist. But if you type in things that don't exist, the computer's still programmed to generate something. So it doesn't come with an I don't know option, so it's just got to take its best guess. My theory of LOAB is that the computer is just trying its best to come up with something from a really confusing instruction based on an initial thing that is complete nonsense in the first place. I also think that this might be why she appears further down the line again, even when the original prompts aren't used. I don't think she's tied to a certain concept, especially not one regarding Brando. I think she's just the outcome of when the computer's like, I don't know what to make here. Have this. AI also works with the likes of machine learning and deep learning. So basically the computer's programmed to learn as it goes along and learn and think almost like a human. So this way it's able to even generate characters, and the more often you refer back to these characters, the more it reinforces these, hence continuing to define them and bring them up in future searches. So even though there is a rational explanation to LOAB, it's still really interesting to see how this computer can almost think for itself and still generate some pretty creepy stuff all on its own. Do you guys think that in the future we'll find out that AI technology has a dark mind of its own that's capable of thinking creepy and dark thoughts outside of human programming? That would be scary. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And to go back to my question at the start of the video, I wanted to ask you guys, do you prefer when I do one long video about one particular topic, or do you like when I sort of break up the topics throughout the video and do multiple things in one? For the foreseeable, I will be doing a mixture of both, but I'm really intrigued to know what you guys would prefer. But in the meantime, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this sort of content, make sure to hit that notification bell at the bottom so you can be notified as soon as this pretty face uploads a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a fabulous week until I next see you. Goodbye. Mwah.